Proviron is a very, very powerful drug. I mean, it's the most androgenic pill that you can take of all the stuff, of all the orals, if you're on TRT. I think a lot of people think, because the literature does state that Proviron inhibits aromatase enzymes from converting testosterone into estrogen, that you could use Proviron like as an AI. Truth about Proviron is, regarding that, is that it's not quite that simple. You've got aromatase inhibitors, right, on this scale of most effective, with the most effective being Arimidex, Aromacin. Obviously, more effective than that is letrozole, but we don't want to ever be using letrozole ever. Below that, you've got Masteron, you've got Primobolan. Below that, you've got actual DHT, causes a degree of suppression of the aromatase genes. Then you've got things like zinc, calcium glucarate, whatever. But ultimately, at the bottom of the scale in terms of aromatase inhibition is actually Proviron. So what I want to do in this video is break down what you need to do in the rest of your protocol in order to make Proviron work for you in an estrogen regulating capacity and therefore sexually optimizing capacity. Stick around. Let's talk about Testosterone. All right, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs, my company, is a TRT guided sexual dysfunction resolution performance optimization company. I got two things to say to you. Right now, there's 3 slots left on coaching. It is 50% off. This is the final call. If you guys are looking to get on board with me for a long-term package, you want me to work with you on restoring libido and erections on HRT, TRT, try different esters, bring DHT in, bring Proviron in, have access to everything, but have me by your side, this is the final call. You get a 50% discount that'll save you thousands of dollars on every coaching program right now. The code is on the screen. It's Coach Discount. This is the final call. Link is down in the description below. If you book, we'll be on the fact-finding call as soon as today, and you can start moving forward on fixing your protocol. Source list, still 30% off. Code is Source30. I'll leave it on the screen for a sec. Get it down in the description of this video. And so the question of how much does Proviron actually lower estradiol, let me just start off by giving you the answer. You're looking at 5 to 10 picograms per milliliter, if that. Now, the reason that that's the case is because of all the things that inhibit aromatase. Let's just take the DHT derivatives. You got Primobolan and Masteron. They're probably about the same, right? I mean, they work on lowering estrogen in different ways, but they're pretty comparable. You got DHT itself, which does downregulate aromatase genes, and as a result, you're going to have a little less estrogen. But then you've got Proviron kind of on the bottom there. And though it does lower estrogen, the typical doses are 12.5 milligrams in the morning, 12.5 milligrams in the evening, or just a straight shot 25 milligram pill of Testosterone per day. And on those doses, you're just not going to get significant aromatase inhibition. So what you would ultimately need to do is you're looking at the 50 to 75 milligram dose range of Proviron to get the aromatase inhibition that you need if you're on like 150 milligrams of testosterone a week or more. And that can be taxing, right? Even though in the literature, there's like one case study of some liver damage from Proviron. Otherwise, every other single study basically counters that and says it's completely safe for the liver. Nobody that I've known, including myself, has ever had any degree of liver enzyme raising from taking Proviron. So you're pretty safe there. However, Proviron is super stimulating. You know, it's so androgenic and so potent at the androgen receptors that like you might feel like you've drank an entirely too much coffee. Plus, added some nootropics on top of it. So when you go up into those higher doses, which will inhibit aromatase more, there you might be looking at 10 to 20 picograms per milliliter, which is what you would want to be aiming for if estrogen's sitting at 55. You just have to know that you run the risk of side effects. Let's get to the idea of which protocols actually make sense with Proviron. In order to determine that, we should talk about what isn't going to work at 25 milligrams a day of Proviron. I would say anything above 130 milligrams a week of testosterone, if you have HCG in your protocol, which you should generally, and most people are just going to do better on if you can find the dose of test and the dose of HCG that makes sense. You go above 130 and that 25 milligrams of Proviron is just not gonna, in most cases, lower estrogen to where you need it to be, right? So say you're at 1100 total test, you're on 140 milligrams of testosterone. That's about where you might end up. Estrogen's gonna be at 55 or so, especially if you have HCG in the picture. There, it's like you take 25 milligrams Proviron a day, you might bump it down to 40, 45, 47. It kind of runs the gamut, but it's almost useless to take it other than the androgenic effects, which you're going to get, and some of the reduction in subcutaneous water. You'll look leaner, you'll look harder, you'll get physique benefits, but it's really not going to benefit the sexual system when estrogen is high. Which brings me to another point. People like to think they can take DHT itself or DHT derivatives, things like Proviron, to act like DHT, because DHT is pretty counter to estradiol. However, the one thing people have to realize is that when estrogen is too high, above 45 picograms per milliliter, like the extra DHT at the androgen receptors and what it does to counter estrogen is just not going to be enough, unless of course you're mega dosing Proviron or mega dosing DHT, and that comes with its own side effects, and that gets murky. So if you're above that range in testosterone and you're sitting at 1140, 1150, 1200, and you're aromatizing a lot, 25 milligrams of Proviron is just not going to cut it. In order to remedy that, what you need to do is you've got to be below that 130 milligram dose range with a little bit of HCG and hopefully some DHEA in your protocol to get then the benefit from Proviron. This is why people will take Proviron, and some people, it gives them their erections back. It gives them libido back, their sensations back. Everything's back. It's acting like DHT, and it's managing estrogen because they're on a low enough dose of testosterone. But this is also why people will take Proviron and they're like, it did nothing for me. I felt a little energized. I felt more masculine. Maybe my voice got deeper for the month that I was using it, but it didn't really do anything regarding sexual function. Yeah, that's because your dose of test is aromatizing too much, and that 25 of Proviron is not able to compensate. So let's run through 3 example protocols of what actually makes sense and what I have seen work in coaching with the use of Proviron to manage estrogen and to optimize sexual function on TRT. All right, number 1, pure 120 milligrams a week, injected every other day. This is coming from a client that I dealt with and just closed a coaching session on just last month. That's 34.29, or rounding it out, 35 milligrams of test. This is testipionate every other day. In that case, with a total of 120 milligrams a week and some frequent injections to keep the estrogen from peaking super high, user was able to take 25 milligrams Proviron a day. It knocked the estrogen down like 7 or 8 points right into the sweet zone. He could enjoy the higher doses in the anabolism and the energy and the masculinity and the confidence, but was able to get estrogen in the sweet spot. It ended up in that case at 29 picograms per milliliter. There was 100 IU of HCG every day and 20 milligrams of DHEA every day. That's it. That's protocol number 1. This is a guy that I just closed a session with last month, and I'm looking directly at the document where we track all the protocols. What does this show us? It shows us that you got to be below that 130 mark in order for the regular dose of Proviron of 25 milligrams a day to actually have an estrogen-lowering effect, a DHT-enhancing effect, and therefore a sexual optimization effect. These are things you guys have to know. All right, protocol number 2. Again, to enforce the point, you just got to be below that 130 mark. You can't be in a place where estrogen is super fucking high and expect 25 milligrams Proviron to take it down. Next protocol is 112 milligrams a week. This is testosterone enanthate. It is injected every single day. So it's 8 units on an insulin syringe. This was 150 IU of HCG every day and 20 milligrams of DHEA in the morning. Now, with that protocol alone, guess where the guy's estrogen was? 35 picograms per milliliter. There, we add 25 milligrams of Proviron. The E2 goes down to 27 picograms per milliliter, stable on the bloods, and the guy gets his erections and libido at full force. Again, keep it below the 130 mark. Ultimately, go by your estradiol labs. Make sure you're getting estradiol sensitive. Go by those labs. If you only need to knock it down 5 to 10 points, that's how you know you're in the window where Proviron is going to optimize sexual function. If you're sitting at 65 picograms per milliliter and you're trying to take 25 milligrams Proviron a day to lower estrogen and fix sexual function, you're going to be confused about why erections and libido are still subpar. All right, last protocol where this worked, just so you guys see where it makes sense. 3 pumps, transcrotal cream, 200 milligrams per milliliter. Per day, right on the morning on the scrotum. 150 IU, HCG, every day. E2 was at 42 picograms per milliliter. because of the DHT effect from DHT itself coming from the transscrotal cream, because there's all this 5-alpha reductase in the highly vascular scrotal skin, he had some degree of kind of estrogen blocking aromatase enzyme suppression, but it wasn't enough and the bloods really didn't reflect that. So on top of that, the 25 milligrams of Proviron per day, I mean, within days, because this is all fast-acting stuff. Proviron's half-life is really short. It onsets really quickly, and the same is true with cream, as well as HCG and DHEA. So this guy's entire protocol is fast-acting, which means he can dial it in quicker. Within days, woke up with erections, had erections at night, was horny again, wanted to have sex with his wife, started to revive their sex life, which ultimately revives people's marriages. I mean, this is serious stuff. But, even all that DHT from the 3 pumps of transscrotal cream, the test itself could take estrogen a little too high. And even though you got some degree of aromatase suppression, the guy needed a little bit of Proviron to come in and deliver the final blow to that E2 that was just a little too high. Now, what we know of Testosterone in the studies regarding the inhibition of aromatase is not a whole lot, but we do have this hallmark paper. It's called Influence of Testosterone on Satellite Cell Distribution and Fiber Morphology Within Maturing Chickens' Pectoralis Muscle. The critically important part goes, in addition, testosterone has a high binding affinity for the enzyme aromatase. So this is effectively, if you will, an antagonist via pretty high binding affinity for the aromatase enzyme. Meaning, Proviron doesn't only act at the ARs and is super androgenic and makes you masculine and your voice deeper and confidence and less subcutaneous water and make you leaner and muscles harder. It actually has an antagonistic affinity at aromatase enzymes throughout your body. They go, it's got a high binding affinity for the enzyme aromatase, which converts other steroids into estrogen. Even though it does not undergo aromatization to estrogen, it is likely that testosterone prevents the conversion of other steroids, especially testosterone, converting to estrogen by blocking the binding site of the aromatase enzyme. Effectively, it acts as an antagonist which basically renders the aromatase enzyme nil. Because of the relative potency of testosterone in a 25 milligram dose, that reduction in estradiol is just not that significant, which is why you've got to stay below that 130 milligram mark of injectable testosterone, especially the long esters, in order for Proviron to give you the sexually optimizing benefit. And this is why you have confusing threads like this on the testosterone subreddit, man. Check this out. It goes, how long on Proviron? 25 milligrams. This is like the minimum dose here to appreciate its psychological and sexual effects. This guy goes, I didn't feel anything positive, but I did suffer hair shedding. I thought it was fake, but I gave it to my friend and he was very satisfied with the results. In general, it's individual how it works. Test it yourself. My friend felt the difference the next day, also 25 milligrams. What's the difference between him and his friend? Well, his friend probably had lower net estradiol in the serum and therefore at the tissues, and the Proviron was enough to knock it down into the sexual zone. We all have a zone regarding estradiol. We have a zone regarding DHT. The first thing to get straight in a TRT protocol is getting in your zone in estradiol. You should fight for that. You have to land there first. Then you deal with extra DHT if you find you need it. But this guy, the guy who took it 25 milligrams and got nothing but hair shedding, which Proviron has the ability to do, likely had the estrogen just too far above range. And the testos was probably above 130 milligrams a week. And therefore, 25 a day of Proviron just didn't cut it. If you're really wondering if you are on higher doses of testosterone, how to use Proviron, this guy, Humble Peasant 77, basically breaks it down. Proviron has hormonal, physical, and psychological effects. Dose is 25 milligrams 3 times a day for the first month, then 25 milligrams once a day, then on. No toxicity to the liver and hair loss if you're prone. If you're on TRT, would highly recommend adding it. You will feel full effects in 3 or 4 days. This is on 25 milligrams 3 times a day. Better erections, strong libido, great mood, vascular effects if you work out. What is he doing here? He's front-loading the Proviron. You're front-loading the Proviron for 30 straight days at 75 fucking milligrams a day. That's gonna do it. if you're above that 130 milligram mark on testosterone, where estrogen is a little too high. Like I said, but like he said, and like I've been saying, there's where the side effects can come about. Even if you're not particularly prone to hair loss on TRT, Proviron is pretty fucking good at ripping your hair out. My hair, my genes, I was born with a full head of black hair. Still, Proviron messes with my hair. So you go up in those higher doses, you're going to achieve the sexual effects you want, but you got to watch your hair. And don't be, making bad decisions like taking Proviron or 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. That would defeat the whole purpose. But like what this guy lays out is exactly what I'm trying to tell you guys. If you're on the higher doses and you don't want to relent with that, like you don't want to depart with your bigger anabolic dose of testosterone, fine. But tolerate what might be some hair loss or otherwise stimulatory side effects, you're going to have to run 50 to 75 milligrams Proviron a day, front load it for a month, and then go down to 25 milligrams a day. By then, the estrogen will be down. And that 25 milligrams a day might be able to sustain it for a period after which probably estrogen is going to go back up. So in the end, the thing that gets me is getting emails of people going, I took Proviron, I watched one of your videos, I'm on 150 milligrams a test, libido and erections are pretty subpar, started taking 25 milligrams a day. And nothing really happened. Is it bad Proviron? Is it bunk? Is my system not responding to it? Is there some other variable? That prompted me to do this video because the variable is the estrogen's already too high and Proviron at 25 a day is just not cutting it. Had that guy booked with me, I would have instructed him via coaching to get that test dose down to below 130 milligrams. And then you run the 25 milligrams Proviron a day. See how you fare. 2 weeks goes by. If it's still not cutting it, you're probably still over aromatizing. You reduce the dose to 120, you reduce the dose to 110, you reduce it to 100. I'd say stop there. But at that point, you're trying to get the best effects from Proviron. If you want a baseline sort of fail-safe protocol, just go to 100 milligrams a week. Get your 150 IU of HCG every day, 20 milligrams DHEA every day, 25 milligrams Proviron every day. Guaranteed your estrogen's going to fall in the sweet spot. And you'll have the extra DHT optimization to have rockin' erections, great sensation, and killer libido. But don't think that just because Proviron's powerful and everybody talks about it like it's this god chemical that on any dose of TRT, you can just take it and you're going to have killer erections. It's not how it works. It only reduces estrogen 5 to 10 points. If that, you've got to be on a lower dose to make it work. Otherwise, you're dosing 75 milligrams a day. And if you're doing that, good luck, buddy. All right, as I said at the beginning, guys, this is the final call. There's a point at which I am overbooked or I cannot take any more coaching clients at this discount. The moment that happens, which guaranteed is going to be this week, I've got to take the discount down. It's 50% off. You're saving thousands of dollars on every coaching package. And this is what I do. This is what I love to do. I've been doing it for years. It's what dominates most of my thinking throughout the workday. If you're trying to resolve libido and erection issues, have access to everything you need, and to have the number one sought out TRT coach for sexual function be by your side and in your corner so you can focus on your life, just hire me. Use the code Coach Discount. It's on top of the screen. It's on the screen everywhere. It's down in the description of this video. This is your final call for 50% off coaching. Source list, 30% off. Code is source30, source30, down in the description of this video, livecortex.com. All right, this has been, I'm happy to, today is, and every day this week, hold on. What is wrong with this chair? God damn it. Let me get my shit together. Super sorry. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Like the video. It's the 9th day in a row I forgot the mic. Tomorrow's going to be 10. I'll probably forget it tomorrow. Let me grab it. Give me this! All right. I'll see you later. We're just... The video's over. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you, boys. I hope you're having a great week so far. I hope you had a great weekend. Much more content to come all week this week. Like the video. Makes a huge difference. Honestly, the algorithm rewards us for likes, so if there's anything you want to do for me, just hit the like button. Otherwise, join one of the fastest growing TRT channels on YouTube. I would love to have you as a sub. Jump on board. Kick ass. Rock on. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll talk to you boys tomorrow.